So we do have an international audience. So I always like to find out from my guests where you were sort of born and raised.
I was born and raised in Brooklyn, New York.
Okay.
Like the song says, I represent Queen. She was raised out in Brooklyn.
Okay. Okay.
Doing it and
Okay.
doing it and doing it. Wow.
How old were you when you did Wild Thing?
17, I
Okay.
think. Around
It's
17.
because listening to it, I mean it actually
It sounds like I was very experienced,
yes, that's what I
but
was
I
trying to
wasn't. No,
say.
I
Okay.
wasn't.
Able to
Did
be in the
I ask
video.
if I was going to be in the
Yeah.
video? Yeah, I asked. And then I was told that I wasn't going to be in the video because I was pregnant. Yeah. And then I was like, Monie and I were really good friends. Monie Love. I did Monie in the middle with Monie Love.
Oh, how did that come about?
Monie in the middle. With yeah, in the middle.
Was that you
um,
asking the question?
that's me. But yeah, Monie and I were really, really close.
Hey guys, want to welcome you to another edition of Halftime Chat. And I've got a special guest. Her name is LeShaun, female hip hop artist. She was signed to Tommy Boy and probably best known for those who listen to a track Doin It with LL Cool J. So I'm going to bring her in and we're going to start the interview. Well, LeShaun, it is definitely great to have you a guest on Halftime Chat. How are you doing today?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes. So we do have an international audience. So I always like to find out from my guests where you were sort of born and raised.
I was born and raised in Brooklyn, New York.
Okay.
Like the song says, I represent Queen. She was raised out in Brooklyn.
Okay. Okay.
Doing it and
Okay.
doing it and doing it. Wow. So yeah, yeah, born and raised in Brooklyn, New York.
Now, you know what is interesting about Brooklyn is that we have people like Biggie who sort of put it on the, I won't say put it on the map, but really made it
Yeah.
known to us
Hmm.
worldwide, those who aren't from New York. So um, there's a sense growing up, did any of these people, especially in hip hop, who were from Brooklyn, did you know them as a when you were younger before you became
I met Big. Ooh, I met Big at like house parties. You know what I mean? Like
wow.
back in the day, everybody kind of ran in the same, crew, so to speak. And I was really good friends with Dream Hampton, the writer and producer. I don't know if you're familiar with Dream Hampton. She's the one who created the movie, the R. Kelly movie. And she also
Not is it
helped
Surviving R.
Jay-Z
Kelly?
write. Yeah,
Okay.
that's Dream Hampton. Yeah, the same Dream Hampton.
Okay.
I was really good friends with her. In fact, I named my first RV that I renovated, and we'll get to that. But my first tiny house, I named Dream. I named after her.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, so Dream Hampton and I were really good friends. So that's how I ended up meeting like Biggie at house parties. And then we would run into each other at different events and stuff outside of Brooklyn. But it was a lot of people that all kind of hung out together, like MC Light, Special Ed, God, Dana Dane. It was just so many of us that kind of all hung out together. The Beat Nuts, those are my boys. I ran with a lot of those people from the whole Native Tongue. Are you familiar with Native Tongue? Tribe
No.
Called Quest,
Oh yeah, I know
Jungle
that.
Brothers.
Yes, yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes, yeah. But
So that whole sect, yeah.
what was it like then as a kid growing up in Brooklyn, say in the 80s, you know?
Um, it was definitely different from the way that it is with kids growing up now. We spent a lot more time on the street. We would be outside and it was, get your ass in the house by the time the street lights come on type of thing. So it was fun. We had the ability to just go out and do things. And my brothers were DJ. So they did a lot of block parties. My cousin, Miles, rest his soul, he was a rapper, not a famous rapper, but he was like the rapper, you know, around the neighborhood and stuff. So he would write rhymes for me when I was younger, and I would like rap at these block parties and stuff that my brothers would throw. So it was a lot of fun. We spent a lot more time outside being creative as opposed to on our phones and inside playing video games and stuff
Yeah.
like that.
At the time,
Definitely different.
at the time you grew up, and I'm just trying to, because that's it always interests for us who are international when we try and get a sense of New York and the different elements. The was there a big issue with the crack epidemic that the people in Harlem were experiencing growing up in Brooklyn? And how did you
Uh-huh.
guys sort of because we saw things like was that New Jack City, but how and it's just understanding how, because a lot of the R&B sort of producers and hip hop artists talk about how much that influenced what they were doing as, you know, their music, but also their lifestyle. But as a kid growing up in there, how did you
Mm,
guys?
It didn't affect me. Um, I think I was just too busy doing what I was doing to even really pay attention to all of that stuff. It wasn't something that was close to my family. Like I can't say that I really could see that as some sort of influence on me because I wasn't around that. You know, I wasn't running around with the crowds that was doing things like, you know, selling or whatever. Like that wasn't my crowd. Um, I was busy doing other stuff, always trying to be creative. So I think it was more, I was sort of protected from it growing up with as many brothers. I have seven brothers. And so
Wow.
I was, yeah, I was sheltered a little, I think. And so they
Yeah.
kept a lot of stuff away from me. And people in the neighborhood that were the neighborhoods that I lived in that were probably into those kind of things knew not to bring that around me because of my brothers. Like nobody wanted to, for lack of a better word, fuck with my brothers. Like it was just nothing where anybody wanted to do anything that was going to, you know, get on their bad side.
Mm.
So I think just I was sheltered without even really knowing it
Yeah. Okay.
because it wasn't something that I realized until I got older how much my brothers influenced the people that even approached me
Mm.
on the street, you know. And even to this day, it's still like my mom is still in Brooklyn, but where a lot of people might feel um scared or nervous or whatever, like I still want her to be careful, keep her head on a swivel when she's outside. But my mother gets a lot of respect simply because of who my brothers are. And so when they see her come down the street, it's like, hey, how you doing, Miss Judy? How, you know, whatever. Like she gets a lot of respect simply because of who my brothers are. So yeah.
And then when it comes to music, what was your sort of no, what were you listening to as a kid, and what's kind of inspired you?
Oh my God. I listen to a lot of music. I listen to everything. I was into hip hop. I was into
But how come hip hop?
um
How come hip hop? Because you know, most would assume R and
my
B.
brothers.
Okay.
My brothers, because like I said, they, you know, they did DJing and they did block parties and stuff. And
Mm.
so, you know, it was the old school hip hop, you know, like back in the day, Afrika Bambaataa, you know, it was just that kind of stuff. And so hip hop was definitely a thing. Of course, R&B music was definitely a thing. I grew up with uh, my aunt was into listening to music all the time. Like couldn't go to her house without there being, you know, music playing or whatever. And then she played the congas and the bongos, and so we were. we were surrounded by music all the time. So it was
And
that, it was, yeah, my cousins playing guitar and, so yeah.
did you ever think about singing, was hip hop just your first love?
No, not singing. I think I have a pretty decent voice, but it wasn't something that I worked on when I was younger. I wasn't, no, I danced. My sister was a dance instructor. So I started doing performances at 5. I was 5 when I joined my sister's dance squad. And so we did a lot of performances, and that was to a lot of either the African beats or the more fast-paced R&B kind of songs that were out at the time. But yeah, we grew up around a lot of music. Like Patti LaBelle is my mom's god sister, so
Wow.
yeah, they haven't spoken in years, and I don't even think Patty knows we even exist. But yeah, they're god sisters. My grandmother and her mom were really close ones. So
Okay,
yeah.
okay. The when you started to listen to hip hop, were there any females that were out that you were looking inspired by,
Hmm, probably, but I can't think of anybody off the top of my head that I feel was influential to me. Like when I started getting into the game was
mm,
around the same time that the Real Roxanne
mm,
and Salt and Pepper.
okay.
So we all kind of came into the game at the same time. And I just remember going to a church picnic with my mom, and one of Salt and Pepper songs came on. I can't even remember which song it was, but it was one of their first songs. And I remember hearing them for the first time. And I had like my little Sony Walkman and my headphones on, and I hear these females rapping, and I'm already into it at this point. Like I'm going to the studio, I'm doing stuff, and so then I hear them, and I was just like, oh my god, I was blown away. So I was happy because now I'm like hearing that inclusion.
Mm.
You got females on the radio, so now I'm starting to feel like, yes, damn, we can do it. So yeah, I would say Salt and Pepper. I want to say I looked up to them because we're like the same age and we started around the same time, but I definitely have mad respect for them.
Angie Stone had a gripe because she and the Sequence were the first sort of female hip hop artists that came out actually with on the Sugar Hill record with Silver Robinson, but
Yeah,
kind
did
of
you say
got
Sequence?
the Sequence.
Yeah, I think yeah, I remember them. Yeah,
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 Angie
I
Stone.
remember
So,
them.
but yeah, but her gripe has been that actually they've just been pushed to the sidelines and not being remembered as a pioneer, as a female rap group from the
Hmm.
late 70s. But I just but wondered how, if even when you were growing up, did you even know about those female hip hop artists as supposed to before Salt and Pepper?
Yeah, I did. And that's why I said I couldn't remember off the top of my head because um I remember females, I just didn't remember their voice. But when you said that, I'm like, okay, now that makes sense. Yeah, definitely. So salute, hats off, flowers all day. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, when you decided to take, doing hip hop, so your brothers and your parents were fine with that, because I do wonder in those early days. It's easy now; everyone females are set trailblazers for hip hop, but back in those early days, it felt like it was still heavily a male sort of kind
Oh,
of
absolutely.
expression. So, was there any kickback from your parents to say, "Oh, what are you doing? This we don't mind you singing and dancing, but this hip hop is, you know."
No. Mm-mm. First of all, no. It was just my mom. So it was parent,
Okay.
and then aunts and uncles who raised me, and then my brothers. So no, there was no pushback. because we were staying out of trouble. We were having fun. We were locked up in the room, writing, acting stupid, jumping around. We stayed out of trouble. So it wasn't, hip hop wasn't, people weren't talking about drugs and guns and, you know, all that crazy stuff that it ended up evolving into. It wasn't that. Like, we were more concerned about being quote unquote fresh. You know, when fresh was a thing, it was like, I'm fresh, I'm dope, that's so hype. You know, we were more into that, and having who had the freshest sneakers. You know, you had to have like the shell toe Adidas or the Lottos or the New Balance. Like, it was more that we were rapping about. So we weren't rapping about the things that rap music evolved into in some areas, because, you know, not everybody raps about the same exact thing. Like, you know, you got different people like Common, who were a little more conscious about people, our people, the planet, you know, just a lot more loving stuff, as opposed to, or elevation, I should say, as opposed to bringing each other down. So not everybody was rapping about the same thing. And we definitely was not talking no shit. Not in my mother's house. Not in Judy's house.
No, Miss Judy's house. Was it always going to be a hobby for you? And what do you think your careers were when you were, you know, high school?
Oh boy. High school. I don't say high school. High school was a lot of fun. I was still rapping, hanging out with my cousins still, and in the studio. It got tricky when it was time for me to go to college, and then I got a call about going on tour with
Wow.
LL. So it was like I had gotten accepted to Parsons School of Design, because
Okay.
I was at Fashion Industries high school, and I got accepted into Parsons School of Design. So I just remember like walking down the street in Manhattan, and I get a phone call. I get a text, actually, because I had my little pager.
Okay.
And it was
Around what year was this? Because just sort of to put in context
I
of
can't
ages.
let me see. Uh wow. Let's see. My son, 34, 19, when was he born? He was 19. I'm trying to think when my son was born. I'm so bad with numbers, like, and dates, because people be asking me like how old I am. Like, I
So
don't
is your
even
son,
know.
how old
Like,
is he? 34?
he'll be 30. I think he'll be 34.
Okay, so
I kid you not.
so
I
are we
do
looking
not.
about 89? Are we looking about
Yeah,
88, 89?
yeah, yeah. I don't keep up with that stuff because it was a little bit further than that, because my son was already, like, he was already born. He was already born. You know, I had him young. I was out there hoeing, doing things I had no business doing. So I messed around and got pregnant early, but you know, no regrets. My son is amazing. And yeah, it was just one of those things. So it was probably like 90 something, 91, 90. He was young, but he was already born. So I know that.
Okay.
Yeah, and
Okay.
I get a page to, like, you know, do you want to do this? And I'm debating like, oh shit, I just got accepted into Parsons,
Oh,
you
you get a
know,
page to do what?
huh?
You get a page to do what? Just tour with
Oh,
LL?
to go, yeah, to go
But
on
had you
tour.
released anything?
Yeah, I had already released stuff. I had already been signed to Tommy Boy.
Oh,
I
well,
started
okay.
doing music. My first song came out when Wild Thing, I think I was like 17.
Oh, okay. So if we go back to then, so because when did you realize that okay, I could try and make a career out of this? Are you talking about even because I was talking about high school, thinking that you were still debating about what you want to do, and before making a decision to go and become an artist. So you're saying that when you were what 16, 15, you were really
I was
serious.
already in the studio. I was already in the studio. I was already working with Jerry Calendar. He had a studio in his basement. And I met Jerry. I was still in high school when I met Jerry.
Okay.
And so in my spare time, I would go over to him and me and my best friend, Shortcut. Lisa, she was my DJ, but she was also my best friend. So I was like, we got to figure out how to get you involved. And so she ended up training to become a DJ, and she ended up becoming really good at it. We would go over to Jerry's house and we'd be there just working on stuff. I was I was still in high school. I met Eric Mennel. Um, he was producing stuff. So yeah, I mean, don't get me to lying on dates and stuff, but I can tell you there was a lot of stuff going on, and I was still in high school.
Yeah, okay, um there was no parental requirements in there. So at that young age, that it was fine, or was it just how things were back then, or
My mother was a single mom of
Mm,
9 children.
wow.
I was the baby. So nobody was monitoring me at all. It
Wow.
was just no, but I was like I said, I wasn't a bad kid. So if I said I'm gonna be at Jerry's house, it was just okay. I mean, my mom knew what I was doing. She trusted me. I made good decisions. I never gave her any problems. I wasn't into drinking and smoking and any of that nonsense. So she knew what I was doing because I'd be in my room writing. I'd be walking through the apartment, you know, saying rhymes, and
Mm.
she knew what I was into. So it wasn't like anybody had any issues. And plus she had met Jerry. He was older, so he definitely made sure that he was very respectful, make sure my mom knew who he was, and all of that stuff. So yeah,
So
was never
how
anything to worry about.
so how old
In
were you
fact, I
in?
never even thought about that until
Okay.
now.
How old were you when you did Wild Thing?
17, I think, around 17.
Okay. It's because listening to it, I mean, it actually,
It sounds like I was very experienced,
yes, that's what I
but
was
I
trying to
wasn't. No,
say.
I
Okay.
wasn't. I wasn't. I think when I made that song, I had probably one boyfriend in my entire, no, it
Okay.
was all based off of me, just from things that I had experienced either in other songs or TV, and I just kind of collected all of this information. So you would think that I was older, but it's
Mm.
so funny because I was fresh out of like Virgin Town, like when I made that song.
Okay. Okay.
Like seriously.
So who wrote the lyrics?
But you remember like groups like Vanity Six? Do you
Yeah,
remember Vanity Six?
yeah, your Prince, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, his group. Yeah. So that was like one of my inspirations, And so I would listen to music like that,
Mm.
and again, wasn't an issue. My aunt had music playing all the time. I spent a lot of time with my aunt, in fact, because again, my mom was a single mom, and she was working all the time. And me and my aunt Mina, rest her soul, she's no longer with us, but I spent a lot of time hanging out with my aunt, who was the coolest person I ever known. So I think I give her a lot of credit for how I turned out.
Wow,
Definitely.
wow. And that's definitely good to have someone inspirational in your life.
Yeah,
Who wrote Wild Thing?
I did.
Okay. So as a 17-year-old, you just knew what you wanted to what you wanted to say and the flow.
Yeah. Jerry gave me a beat. I took it home. I started, writing to it, took it back to Jerry's house and we laid the track. And he shopped it around and then we ended up getting signed. We had Wild Thing and then we had another song. It's so funny because sometimes people will DM me with stuff and I'm like, oh shit, I forgot I did that. But like I did another song called Totally Awesome where I had my Valley Girl voice. And I don't know if you remember Valley Girls from California and how they used to talk like, like this,
Oh
like
yeah,
totally,
yeah, yeah,
totally.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
And so I had a song and I did it in that persona. And
Wow.
it's so funny because like one of my I hate to call people followers. I hate that, but like and I definitely don't feel like it's weird like to say like fans or whatever, but like on my YouTube channel, I refer to everybody as co-stars or their family, whatever. It's just
Mm.
weird. But one of them reached out to me. His name is Mike, and Mike is always sending me stuff that I did, and I'm like, where do y'all find this stuff at? Like interviews and pictures, and so it's like him and Sean, and there's a couple of them that they'll be like sending me stuff, and I'm like, I don't know where y'all get this shit from. I really don't. Where did y'all unbury that from? So it's weird, but yeah, I think I kind of went off on a tangent. I don't know if I answered your question.
Yeah, no, but I was no, because you did explain how Jerry gave you the beat and then you went
Mhm.
home to write towards it, and then you kind of branched to mention how and you're inspired by Vanity Six and they were sort of seductive
Really
type of
sexy,
singing. Yeah, so
very yes,
yeah.
very
Um,
sexy.
but
And
at
me
that
and Prince were born on the same day, right?
oh wow,
We
okay.
share the same birthday, June 7th.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I love Prince.
Yes, yes, yeah. An amazing talent. The
Love.
You're writing lyrics to a song now. Today, hip hop artists were treated much differently because they wrote all their lyrics compared to most R&B acts back in the early 80s and 90s where they relied on songwriters to do their stuff. So, but when you're writing these lyrics, did you have any idea of, okay, well, these are mine and we're using them, but there's something called publishing and things like that. At that young age, they knew you could write and rap. Were you privileged to understand and learn those
No,
elements of the
mm,
business?
no, no, no. Let me tell you, if I knew then what I know now, things would have been a whole lot different. And so no, the the music industry, I think, took advantage of so many artists, not just me.
Mm,
I've seen some of your podcasts and I have heard the same song over and over and over again from so many artists. They took advantage of us. I, I want to say they exploited us because they knew we had this talent, but they also knew that we were young. A
mm,
lot of us came from nothing.
mm,
And so for somebody to offer you 10 racks, and they're like, oh, we're going to give you this, like you thinking, especially somebody like me and a lot of artists who grew up without a father in the household, and you just want to help your mom. Like you just want to, you see her working hard, busting
mm,
her ass, and you just want to help your mom. Like, yo, if I do this and I can get out here and do these shows, I can, give mom some money every month. I can help her take care of these bills. So your mindset is this is gonna help. Let me do what I gotta do. You're not thinking about 20 or 30 years from now. And you're just thinking about then and that come up, you know. So many of us got, you might have to bleep this. So many of us got fucked over by the industry. And I just got to tell you, I mean, I think that honestly, in my opinion, I feel like if we had one or two or a really good team of lawyers, that a lot of people from back in the day, not just hip hop artists, R&B artists, backup singers, writers, if we all got together, we could do a full-on class action lawsuit against a lot of these record labels and some of these bigger artists who just, quite frankly, took advantage of us. They knew we didn't know any better. They knew that we didn't have the money for attorneys. And if you didn't, they would say, well, we have an attorney who can look at it for you. Well, when you're 17, 18, 20, 22, you don't really think about conflict of interest. You know, you think that this attorney is telling you what's best, you know, for you, because I'm not a lawyer. I can't even read all that legal mumbo jumbo. And it's like, well, what does this say? So many people signed away their publishing, their masters, you know, for some people, $1. Some people got nothing. Some people signed these big deals and it was like, oh, we're going to give you X amount of dollars, 50 grand, whatever it was back then to produce an album. But all of that has to go to producing the album. That's not your money, but then you got to pay all of that money back. You're responsible for it. So we didn't think about those things, but at the same time, we didn't have the right people in our corner to look out for us and our best interests. These labels were all about making money and at any cost. So many, like, even I've heard Kanye say, like, these artists will go on tour and make all this money just to pay off the debt that they got into just to go on tour. And so it's like, you're not really making any money. You want to buy a house, but now you got to pay back all this debt. And to me, it's why you see so many artists still performing. You 50, you 60, relax. But they can't.
Yeah.
They can't. And they can't because there's this whole thing where either people get caught up in the whole ego, you know, of being famous, and they have this persona that they need to project out, especially now in this day and age of fast. Everything gets out within a second. And so, you know, if you are not flaunting the right kind of bag, sneakers, jacket, house, car, if you're not flying first class, you know, then they're afraid that people are not going to like them or look up to them or whatever. And so you still got all these artists out here fronting. And, you know, it's like that little rant I did on my YouTube channel where I was like, should I be mad? You know, and it's like, people are out here fronting the most, like you doing the absolute most. But I'm just sitting here going, like, seriously? Like, really? You know, that is not how it is. And a lot of people need to just sit the fuck down and relax. Like, when are you going to retire? Like, you shouldn't be 65 years old and your audience is pulling up in wheelchairs. They got canes, walkers, oxygen tanks. It's like, that's your audience. Sit down, stop playing. So I'm not saying like people can't look good. You know, I think I look good for my age. I work out, I eat well. You know, but it's just certain things should be left for let this generation do their thing.
Yeah.
And they can still celebrate you, they can still honor you and stuff like that. But you know, a lot of them can't, a lot of them can't sit down because they have to keep up this persona.
Yeah.
And you know, they gotta do it for the gram. And I think that's the reason why I have the community that I have, because I'm just like, yeah, I'm just me. You know, I when people say that all that famous bullshit, I'm like, who are you talking about? Like who? You know, I'm just me.
Yeah.
And yeah, I did X, Y, and Z, but I'm like, that's not who I am. Like,
Mm.
that's not all that I'm about. I have very many talents, you know. I do DIY. I'm very proud of my photography. I think the the most, not the most, but the biggest thing that I did in my life, to me, was when I had my photography gallery. And that to me was bigger than, you know, going triple platinum with LL Cool J. You
Mm.
know, I was more like so happy when I did my photography gallery, because I did that. It was
Yeah.
all me. Nobody could take anything away from me. It was all my idea. So there's so many other things that I would say that I'm more proud of in my
Mm.
life, than just that I would want people to know me for, you know, for
Yeah.
being a DIYer, for being able to remodel a home, me, you know, with
Yeah.
my hands,
Yeah. But
remodel
but
a home.
but
So yeah.
yeah, but we will come to that, and the question I wanted to
Sorry,
find
I
out.
just
No, it's understandable. It's not easy. And as I said, after talking to over 100 different artists, I think my shock value has come down. So I think when I started, I almost fell off my chair when I think I started with Dawn, and she talked about how they got ripped off and everyone subsequently. So I've kind of been desensitized to it, but it's still painful nonetheless. But I was wondering, um, the other question was, when you did your version of Wild Thing, was it a response to Tone Loc's version of Wild Thing, or was it completely just no
a
link?
response to whose?
Tone Loc, Wild Thing.
No, we came out around the same time. I had never heard of Tone Loc,
Because it was
but
on the West
because
Coast.
he, yeah, but because he was a male, and obviously he had A&R label, everybody that was pushing his stuff. His song got played on the radio. Mine didn't. Like, it got played on the radio, but it didn't get the same push. And we were
Mm.
out around the same time. So it was, his was Wild Thing, and mine was Wild Thang. And so it was like,
But
yeah, there was a little bit
Who
of
came up with the
competition.
name? So you wrote the lyrics, but did they come up with the
Yeah,
name? We wanted a track
no,
called.
me. That was me. That was
Okay.
me. That was
Okay.
all me. That was all
Okay.
me. Like
Okay.
I said, Jerry gave me the beats. He gave me multiple beats. And I would write all the time.
So when he's giving you the beats for you to record, did you see it as a job? So they're paying you for your studio time, or was it
No,
just like a hobby? Like, oh, okay, I'll do this if in fact I would have paid you to
it
let
was a
me.
grind. It was
Yeah.
a grind. It was just, let's do this until something happened. It was a grind. And, you know, it was having a cassette tape, putting it, like I said, in my
Mm.
Walkman. Put your headphones on, you listening to it. You on the bus, you on the train, you know, you writing. That's just how it was.
So did Wild Thing get you the record deal with Tommy Boy?
Well, Wild Thing got me a record deal with what was that man's name? I can't even think of I can't even think of his label, but I was on this one guy's label, and it's funny because I just looked at it not too long ago. And then his label got picked up by Warlock Records. Um, And from what I understand, and this I just found out this year, 2023, is that Tommy Boy bought out Warlock Records. So I don't know, there's some confusion there, but no, I was signed to a completely different label. this young guy. He was a strange bird. He was into a lot of things. You know, I heard he was a drug dealer. I heard he was a pimp. I heard a bunch of different stuff, but he signed me to his label, and then his label was being distributed by Warlock, but then it eventually took over
Oh, Tommy
that
Boy.
label.
Okay.
Yeah, and then Tommy Boy took over, but that's not how I got. Basically, the deal that I had with him, because of everything that I was doing and I was starting to make some noise in the industry, I ended up signing up with Tommy Boy. But by that time, I'm pretty sure I was already with Flavor Unit.
Okay. So
So
how did they pick you up?
Flavor Unit,
Yeah.
I don't even remember how all of that happened, but like I was close to the Jungle Brothers, and I don't know if you remember Chris Lighty,
Yeah,
Violator.
I had him down because I know Chris from yeah, Chris
Chris Lighty was the one who he
Violet.
was he was the head of Violator, yeah,
Yeah,
Violator
yeah. Buster
Management, and
Rhymes
then
and Mona Scott. Yeah,
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 yeah, 50. And
yeah.
so it started out as Violator Management, and then it branched out into Violator Records and everything else.
Okay, but
But I
then
was really good
okay,
friends with Chris Lighty, so that's how
after
I
you did
I'm
before you did Wild Thing, just so that we can just get a picture. So you do Wild Thing. You already know Chris by that time.
no,
Okay,
I
so
met Chris after the fact. Yeah, I met Chris through. I'm trying to think, how did I even meet Lighty? I want to say I met Chris through the Jungle Brothers.
oh,
Because I was really close to Sammy B, the DJ. And I mean, a lot of people don't know this, but he's actually my son's father.
okay.
And so I was close to Sam, and Sam was close. Well, all the Jungle Brothers were all close to Chris Lighty, Q-Tip, all of them, like that whole crew. And Chris was managing all of them. So that's how I met Chris, through them. And and then we became really good friends. It was funny because I think like when I first met Chris, I couldn't stand him and he couldn't stand me. And I think it was because I was like constantly pulling Sam away from things that he needed to do or
Okay.
whatever. It's like young kids in love, whatever. And so he couldn't stand me, I couldn't stand him. And then somehow something happened, and Chris came to my defense. And after that, we were like that. And so we were just like so cool after that. And even when Sam and I fell out and he was no longer in my life, Chris and I remained friends up until he took his life.
Yeah. And whose idea was it to get you to Flavor Unit if Chris was already managing and
It was probably, I'm trying to think if it was probably Chris. It was probably something along those lines because he was really good friends with Shakim Compare,
mm,
who ran Flavor Unit with Queen Latifah. So Shakim and Chris were good friends too. So just remember, like back then, it was a very tight knit, it was things didn't go that far. It was like this person knew this person knew this person. And I'm pretty sure that was around the time that I ended up with Flavor Unit. And because I did stuff with like Apache, rest his soul. He's another one who's not here with us. But I did stuff with him. And yeah. And then I was like, Monie and I were really good friends. Monie Love. I did Monie in the Middle with Monie Love.
Oh, how did that come about?
Monie in the middle. Where's he at? In the middle.
Oh, was that you
um,
asking the
that's
question?
me. Where's she at? Yeah, that's me
Oh,
in Monie's video.
how did that come about?
So Monie is from England,
Yeah.
your hometown. So I know you're familiar with Monie. And she I'm trying to think, I want to say it was Afrika from the Jungle Brothers, who she was sort of her business out on the street, but her and Afrika were dating, I guess
Okay.
that's what you want to call it. And again, so Jungle Brothers, Afrika, me being close to them, and when she came over to the U.S., Afrika was like, before she even came over, it was like, it's somebody I want you to meet. I think you would like her. So he would play some of her music for me. He played some of my music for her, and being two females and two peas in a pod, it was like, we really clicked. So
Mm.
when she came over, Afrika was like, maybe she can hang out with you, whatever, whatever. So she did. So Monie ended up staying with me
Wow.
in Brooklyn. And so she stayed with me for a while. She was always at my house. Like, she would go back and forth between being with me and with, over with Afrika or with Kika or Allison, who were Queen Latifah's dancers. So it was definitely like I said, like a tight knit group of people. But yeah, Monie and I were really, really close.
And when you recorded the track, was there an indication that this unlike Wild Thing was going to be instant hit, or what was your thoughts when you were?
No, we liked it, and because Jerry knew people at the radio station, it was that kind of thing where you show up at the radio station and you hand
Okay.
somebody your tape or whatever,
Mm.
and they'd be like, okay, yeah, whatever, whatever. And then next thing you know, it was playing on the radio, and it was like, oh my God, that's me.
It- so for yourself, you didn't write. Did you write anything on this, or it was just they told you what to say?
Which song are we talking about? Wild Thing is my
No,
song. Are we talking about
money in
Wild
the
Thing or
little,
are we talking about Doing It? Or
money in the
Monie in
money in the little, yeah, in the
Monie in
middle.
the Middle? Oh no, that when we went in the studio to do that, that was just again, we all would hang out in each other's sessions.
Mm.
So um it would be things like, Sean, it would be dope if, you know, what if you said, because I would always do these voices. Like I said, I did Totally Awesome in my Valley Girl voice. And so people knew that I could do these voices where I could mock other people and
Mm.
not mock, mimic other people.
Yeah.
And so it was like, but I want you to do it like this. And so that's where the way yeah came from, Um, and same thing, like with De La Soul. I did Biddies in the BK Lounge with De La Soul. And I can't even remember if I even got paid for that. That was just like, it wasn't something that we gave a lot of thought to. We hung out in each other's sessions.
Yeah.
We would page each other. Where you at? I'm here. I'm gonna be going to the studio tonight. Okay, all right, I'm gonna come by. And so you jump on the train and you go up to Manhattan. And next thing you know, you show up at somebody's session and, we order pizza, Chinese food. We all in there acting a fool. And they'd be like, hey, why don't you do this? And so, yeah, so I probably did a lot of stuff that I can't even remember because that's just how it was. It was just we be in each other's sessions.
But in management, so you're signed to Flavor Unit as a manager. Are they supposed to be keeping a check on this and making sure?
This was before Flavor Unit. This was
Okay.
before Flavor Unit. But even when I was signed to Flavor Unit, again, Queen Latifah was part of Native Tongue. So if you got Queen Latifah and then I'm being managed by her, But then I show up at Q-Tip's session and Tip asked me to do something. Latifah's not gonna be like, no, she's not supposed to do that. Like, it wasn't like that back then. It wasn't, everything didn't need to be as, I don't want to say
Informal.
contractual.
Mhm.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't like that. It was like, I need you to jump on this hook real quick. I'm gonna hit you off, you know? And so it was like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Or you just did stuff because it was fun and you just did it. And it wasn't as, like you said, it wasn't as formal back then.
When you joined Flavor Unit, was Naughty by Nature there by that time?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Because
I was there, I want to say I was there before Naughty, before they signed Naughty, because I remember Shakim telling me about Tretch. I
yeah.
remember Shakim saying, yo, we just signed, you know, and he's telling me all this stuff. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I can't remember exactly because, again, I knew all of these people before I was like officially signed to them. So it could have been a conversation that happened before I was with Flavor Unit, or it could have been after. But yeah, there was so much stuff that was going on, but not everything was always done under the umbrella of, you know, I'm officially here or I'm officially there. You know, we looked out for each other. We were more of a family then. It wasn't so much like a competition thing. We all wanted to see each other eat,
So I just,
except for the labels.
except for the labels, I just
Except for the
recently
labels.
listened to Ready or Not, and it was this is pre-Lady of Rage, but I wondered what Queen Latifah felt of your rapping style and how you delivered the track. Did she think,
She
oh, you're taking some of mine, this is how I sound, or
No, me and Latifah didn't sound anything alike.
mm,
And she was on a completely different level in terms of, you know, what she was trying to deliver to women. You know, more of a conscious based, lyrical content. But for me, I was just, I was on a whole nother level. I was trying to like take them down. You know, it was like, I was definitely a little bit more on some gangster shit, you know?
okay, okay.
Yeah, like I was in Apache's video, Gangsta Bitch, with an
Ah,
AK-47. So
wow, what
it's
kind of
like,
looks? Yeah,
yeah,
okay, okay. I took it.
yeah. Most
Uh,
people would recognize me. I had on a skull cap and, you know, some Carhartt, Timberlands, all of that. But yeah, it was like me, Nikki D. Um, yeah. Latifah didn't, I don't think she ever looked at me as being competition or, you know, well, that's my style. Like we had two totally different flows, just like Monie. We had two totally different things that we were talking about. And I think out of the three of us, like I was the most gangster um from them. You know, Monie stuff was a little bit more crossover, a little more popish. And Latifah stuff was definitely more conscious, more along the whole tribe kind of stuff, you know, that whole thing. She had a completely different flow. So she loved what I did. Shakim loved it. There was that shock value. When it came to LeShaun, there was definitely that shock value, you
yeah.
know.
I mean, what was considered success for you during those days at Tommy Boy? What would they look
Um,
at to say, "Yep, LeShaun, you're successful. You're a success."
I don't think I ever felt that way. Um, that I was successful. I don't know. I can't even tell you what they were thinking. I think there were times when I did like a music video where I thought like, okay, this is it, you know, but I didn't feel like I had the support of my label, but I also know that it wasn't just the label. A lot of it had to do with what DJs would and wouldn't play. And seeing as back then I was more tomboyish and I wasn't about the sexy. And had I been, you know, doing something more along the lines of, you know, showing more skin or being a little bit more feminine, I think it would have been a different story. But I was
Who?
definitely a tomboy.
So which female hip hop artist was out when you came out with Ready or Not?
Ready or Not? Oh, by Ready or Not, gosh, there was, you had Salt and Pepper, obviously, Queen Latifah, Monie Love. You had
No, that
MC
was
Light
93. So we're looking at 93.
ish, yeah. And you had like MC Light. You had Yo Yo, Lady of Rage. I
Yeah,
think
so yeah.
Boss.
So none of them
Um,
were everyone was sort of even like all tomboy, you know, baggy jeans and you know bandanas, even yo-yo. So they weren't. I mean, it wasn't until Little Kim came out that all of a sudden female hip hop artists.
Foxy Brown.
Yeah,
Um,
they came out around the
I
same
was,
time, but that was more the mid
yeah,
'90s, so not the early
it
'90s.
was getting a little bit further, but definitely, yeah, I just always say that I came out, I was before my time, for sure, for sure. Like people ask now, like, can we get this album? Like, can we get it streamed? And I'm like, y'all gotta have to talk to Tommy Boy about all of that. But
Yeah, because I listened to
yeah,
Wild
it
Thing
was
and
a
I'm
good
like,
album.
it's still. I mean, maybe because LL's and Trackmaster sampled it, that's why it still has this freshness. But it sounded very unique. But I don't know if people understood the power of taking a chance on a unique record. But by the time you signed to Tommy Boy, did you get a lot more understanding about publishing points, recuperables, and stuff? Because you know, through Flavor Unit, were they saying, "Okay, let's teach you what you need to know because it's not a."
So so yeah, by that time, um, there was a little bit more understanding, but there was still a lot more that I feel like I probably would not have signed, you know, had I had a better understanding of things. But yeah, by that time you definitely got, you know, a little bit more of an understanding about points, publishing, masters, things like that. So, you know, it wasn't always rainbows and unicorns up at Tommy Boy either, you know. I I definitely had my office meetings with him.
So okay, I mean, so you've gone on to Tommy Boy and Flavor Unit. How did your whose idea was it to reinvent Wild Thing um, and um, and 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 passing
Chris
it to
Lady.
Ella? Okay, so what did he come to you first? Did he go to L first, or how did it that?
No, he was working with L with Rashad who produced it. And he was already in the studio, you know, L was already in the studio. And Chris was, I don't know if he was like officially managing L, but he was definitely one of those liaisons where
Mm.
he was involved with a lot of stuff. And he was the one who hit me up. So he texted me and he was like, hey, we doing this, you know, want you to come down to the studio, work with my man L. And so I'm like, oh, okay. You know, so he's like, I'm gonna send a car for you, which he did. And brought me to the studio. That was the first time I had met L in person. Like I had been in same areas with him, like shows behind, backstage, but we hadn't met.
Mm.
So that was the first time I officially met him. And so it was fun. We clicked. We sat down, we went over things, we played around with lyrics and the hook, which was the beginning of my song, which is doing it and doing it and doing it well. So we did all of that. And then by the time, I think it was probably like just the first day was sort of like meeting with each other, talking, going over some things. Okay, come back, go back into the studio, and now we're ready. And that first the track that you hear on the radio is the first take.
Wow.
Yeah. So when we did it that first time, it was so dope. Now that song you asked me about, Wild Thing, my song at that time, like I was really young, was like probably 88, whatever, or something.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know. But when we did Doing It, the first take was fire. And we knew right then that it was a hit. Like we were all in the studio just like blown. So we knew it was a hit. And then we went back in to do, like to do it over, whatever. But Rashad never got rid of the first take.
First
He
take.
just kept it on a separate track. Yeah. And he never got rid of it. So we went back in and we kept trying to like, do it again. But it was the first one for
Wow.
everybody. Yeah. So what you hear is the first take. And
Wow.
then I just went back in and we did our ad libs obviously over it because those are all on separate tracks. So, he did all his stuff. I did all my moans and everything. And
But whose idea was it to do all that, especially towards the end of the track?
probably L telling me to, do this because I had done it on my own song. So it was like,
Okay.
oh yeah, give us a little bit of, because I have done stuff with L since like in the last few years. Before the pandemic, I had done some things with him on Rock the Bell radio, and I
Mm.
did a lot of the commercials. And so L is always like, yeah, you know, throw that sexy on it. You know how you do it. So he always like that. And yeah, so it's probably him who told me to like turn it up a notch or whatever, something. And then it just, to me, it's just a switch. It's
Okay.
super easy because just like doing a Valley Girl voice, or you know, I don't want to, I don't want to like um sound crazy or put anybody out there, but I do a lot of different voices. So to me, it's just another character.
But at this time, did Chris say, okay, let's talk paper? Did you say, Chris, okay, let's talk paperwork? Because this is going on Def Jam. It's a big track, I've already been taken once.
Yeah, well, what happened is, like I said, Chris was doing more of the management. He was more in that with the album, sort of like A&R. I can't even tell you exactly what Chris's role was at that time, but I know it was him who reached out and said, hey, because he was working with Elle, and like I said, Chris and I were close. So it was just, oh, let me call her kind of thing. But it was Mona Scott, who I dealt with when it came to all the paperwork and stuff. So I dealt with
Okay.
Mona up at Def Jam when it came to all of that. And then, I think I think if it was Chris that was handling that kind of thing, it would have been a little different. But he was out of the loop by the time it got to all of that. And I just remember working with Mona on all of that stuff.
Okay. Now, were you still a Tommy Boy when you did this for Elle?
Um, Let me see, we did, mm, I can't remember. I can't even remember because I know Tommy Boy they had my album, but my album never got released, and I can't even tell you how long it was before my album was done until Tommy Boy finally was like, "Well, we're not going to release your album," you
Wow.
know. So I can't even remember like how much time it was in between there. Um, so I may have already been done with Tommy Boy by that time.
Wow. So with a big successful single, um, does Tommy Boy think, uh-oh, you know, we on the back of this hot single, let's try and I'll re-release your album, or let's push you and stuff, or
I I don't think that they thought that. And again, I was um I was a borderline thug. So I was just like, if somebody did me wrong back then, I held a grudge. I'm real different now. But back then, I would hold a grudge. And so if if they had come back and asked me, I might have been like, nah, I'm good, you know.
Okay.
So I couldn't even tell you. I don't think that that ever came up, but again, people hit me up with interviews that I did, and I'm like, damn, I said that. Like I can't even remember. I said that. You know, I've had guys hit me up and go, yeah, we used to hang out. I'm like, really? Like I don't remember you.
Wow.
So
I
yeah,
mean, the
I don't
big
think that was something that they did though.
now the big question everyone kept asking is how come we didn't see LeShaun in the big video? I've seen in subsequent interviews that you mentioned that you were pregnant with your daughter. It was that did you say I'm pregnant, I can't be in videos, or are we 8 months pregnant that you couldn't do? You know what was
No, I wanted to do it. Um, but I was pregnant. And I was very pregnant by the time
okay.
they decided to make that a single and do a video. I was very pregnant. And you know, looking back now at the pictures when I was pregnant with my daughter, that was with my daughter,
Mm,
um, I would probably say that like I'm good because I know like when I was pregnant with my daughter, like my nose spread, like I was
okay.
super, and I had acne so bad with her. It was different. Like my pregnancy with my son was completely different than my pregnancy with my daughter. So she
Uh,
turned me into something that I don't even like looking at the pictures. I'm like, who is that person? But but I do think that when I think about it now, I feel like had they gotten the right makeup artist and hairstylist and just wardrobe, they probably could have had me not do my part because my part was really sexy and I was like, I was giving mom, I was not giving sexy.
yeah.
And so I think that they could have found a way to work me into the video as something like not that person, but at least give me some props, at least give me
Yeah.
some daps. If you just did me up front, like they had her in a limo, I could have been the limo driver. I could have had on a hat, my
Okay.
hair, you
Okay.
know, I could have just been featured in the video. So at
Yeah.
least he didn't look like, you know, he didn't want um me in the video because it ended up causing a lot of issues
I was
where, you know, there was a whole lawsuit and, you know, all kinds of stuff. But I just really feel like I could have done something. I could have been in the club, the girls, you know, on the poles, whatever. I could have been the madam. I don't know, anything, working at the bar or something.
yeah.
They could have found a way to work me into the video where you didn't have to see my belly
Yeah.
and somebody who knew what they were doing. Like, there's so many dope ass makeup artists back then. Somebody could have beat this face
But did you
so
ask
that
the
it looked.
question, or was it just already batted back before you even thought about it? Being able to
Did I
be in a
ask
video.
if I was going to be in the
Yeah.
video? Yeah, I asked. And then I was told that I wasn't going to be in the video because I was pregnant.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
When the song's blown up, what are your thoughts?
When?
When the song is blown up and it's, you've got this massive song, but it's also a remake of your track that you did when you were 17. So, I mean, what are your thoughts when the song is blown up and it's your song, even though LL's re-singing your song?
Um, at first, it was cool. But then once I got pregnant, I went out on the road, but then I was sent home. After my daughter was born was when I went out on the road with him again, and then I was sent home. My daughter was really young. I had just given birth, like, I don't know, probably a few months before. So
Mm.
somebody else ended up doing my part on tour. And this
Ah,
went on for a while. And then eventually, Elle and I, we had some beef. We squashed our beef. And I have to say that that came not because of me, it was because of his wife. So it was because of Simone that Elle realized how that made me feel. Because I think at the time, it was either around that time or right after that, Simone ended up having another child or something along the lines. But she was the one who had to explain to him from a woman's perspective how this could make me feel. And so she was the one who told him to reach out to me. So he reached out to me, he apologized, and then eventually I ended up going out on tour with him after that. But there
okay.
were plenty of times when there were women that did my part. I mean, even if you see now in the past few years, like Jennifer Lopez did Doing It with him on one of the award shows.
Yeah.
And I think somebody else recently, like, I don't know, I don't pay attention to it. I don't follow artists. So like I think out of everybody, like Yo-Yo and I are still cool, me and Monie. So like them, I follow, but when it comes to like other artists and stuff in the industry, I really don't follow a lot of artists at all.
What I mean, so I'm a therapist full time, and when I heard about Chris's passing, um, it it's the kind of thing where successful, everything you can want. Yeah, you've left a legacy where people um see you as one of the best out there, and yet you know no one would kind of understand why you would just throw it all away and end your life. Being that you'd known him for such a long time, um, what could you tell for those of us who never really knew him, what Chris liked he was like?
Um, he was he was really, like, I think the side of him that people didn't see all the time because he was so business oriented. He was
Mm.
about his business. He was definitely a hustler, but he was funny. And I think a lot of people didn't see that side of him because he always had to be, about his business. But he was really funny. We laughed a lot. We would hang out, go eat, talk shit. But he was um he was a really sweet guy. He looked out for me, and not just with the song, like even when all of that was said and done, when I was going through my divorce, Chris was there, Shakim too. It was like those two I definitely have to like show so much love for, because when we were no longer even tied to each other in no way, shape, form, or fashion in terms of music, we were still friends. And I could still call Chris and say, hey, Chris, this, da 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 da, whatever. Shakim, I need da 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 da. And can you help me with this or that or the other? So yeah. He was definitely somebody who kept it real and looked out for his loved ones. So it definitely, like, it hurt. I was like, um, I was walking through Macy's buying earrings, and Red, my friend Red, who's with the Trackmasters, he calls me and he's like, "Where are you?" And I was like, "I'm in Macy's looking at earrings." And he's like, "Okay, I need for you to like sit down," kind of thing. And obviously, I stopped everything I was doing, left the store, and then I just had to kind of figure out what was going on. So it was really hard. It was really hard
Yeah,
to
I
lose
mean,
somebody like that.
yeah, especially men, and that is men under 35. It is still one of the biggest killer. And so hopefully another family and friends don't have to wake up to that type of news. But we'll still celebrate the impact he had in the industry. I mean, with Violator and all the great artists that he brought forward. Um,
Yeah.
Now I know you moved into photography, but why did you leave the music industry and move into photography?
When I was in the music industry, I was always curious about photography,
Okay.
because I was always in front of the camera, but I was
Uh,
always curious about what was going on behind the camera. I wanted to know, how are you doing this? What are you
mm,
pressing? Why do you need this? What is that? And then I just would tinker. So it was something that I enjoyed doing. I was always into photography from the time I was a little kid. I had one of those really small, you probably too young to remember, but like one of those little 110 cameras. They were really small and you pop the film in the back. So that was one of my very first cameras. And I was paparazzi when I was like 6 or 7. I was paparazzi back then. So um I loved photography for a long time.
wow.
So when I got out of that industry, it was something I played around with. I still wasn't a professional photographer. I actually went from the music industry into interior design.
Wow.
Photography was always a side thing, a side hobby for me, because I wasn't making money, but it was definitely something I loved doing, and I would invest money into, getting better equipment, learning, taking classes, things like that. It wasn't like YouTube now, where you can go to YouTube University for free and learn everything. So back then it was like you had to pay somebody, go over to their studio, take a course. And so I did that in the beginning. But I definitely got straight from the music industry into interior design. And then from interior design, I went into healing, where I became a bodywork practitioner. So I do like massage, kind of, when I first started, it was more, I was going to school for physical therapy to become a physical therapist.
Okay.
And then I dropped out because I was like, I don't think I want to do this much school, and I ended up, going into doing like therapy, working on athletes and stuff like that. But yeah, so a lot more stuff that happened before I started taking my photography seriously and actually thought I was good enough to start charging people. So it took a few years to get to that point, and then I started charging people.
Oh, wow. But so the interior design, then what about the DIY stuff? Is it mainly where you live?
that's all tied into the interior design stuff.
Okay.
So the
Okay.
whole DIY thing, not just designing stuff, but also building out things. When I was married, the garage was mine. So you know how most men, the garage is theirs. That's
Yeah.
like their cave, the
Yeah.
man cave, so to speak, and they build it out for all the tools, all the bells and whistles. It was mine. My my husband had no idea what was going on out there in the garage, nor did he have any interest in knowing what was going on out there in the garage. He was just like, one neighbor had went by one day and we're both standing out there talking, and the guy walks by, hey neighbor, kind of thing, and he's like, man, you got a nice setup there. He turned around, he looked at me, he was like, that's my wife. Like, that ain't got nothing to do with me. I don't even know nothing about that stuff. So it was really funny because that was me. I fixed everything in the house. I was the one doing all of that stuff. So
Oh.
still a tomboy. It's being raised by 7 boys, pretty much.
Yes, you said, brothers. Now you also mentioned you have got a YouTube channel for those who want to search it out. And what is it that you cover on your channel?
So my channel started out with photography, and then when I got my first rig that I converted into a tiny home, it started to take more of a turn where people were more interested in seeing this young Black woman do all this DIY stuff. And so I started picking up that audience. And I think that's kind of where it started to really get more subs and people interested. And then I was featured on Tiny House Giant Journey, which is a really big channel on YouTube, where she featured my first tiny home, and told people who I was. And so it was kind of
Mm.
funny because now everybody was like, wait a minute, that's her. Like, because remember, I wasn't in the video, so people
Yeah,
were kind of, I think, shocked to see that I had resurfaced because,
yeah.
up until that point, I think everybody thought I had just fallen off the face of the earth. And it's like,
Yeah.
no, I'm here. I'm just doing my own thing. And so after that, I got people interested in wanting to know what was going on with me, because it was like, wow, I can't believe that's LeShaun, the voice of Doing It. And then, wow, but she's doing all this other stuff. And so on my channel now, I would say it's it's lifestyle, but my focus is on design, tiny houses, and travel, DIY stuff. And it's
Okay.
just me just being me. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like
Just being me.
yeah, it's like a personal blog so people can see you in action across the different. What is the name of the channel for those who might be?
LeShaun Will. So it's my name. It's LeShaun. And then my last name, Will. It's Williams, but it's a play on words. It's sort
Yeah.
of like a double entendre, because you got LeShaun Will do photography, LeShaun Will travel, LeShaun
Okay.
Will design, So I just cut it so that it's LeShaun Will. So that's
Okay.
what it is. And same thing on Instagram, LeShaun Will. And my photography is courtyouLooking.com. And that's COURTULOOKIN, Ebonics.
So I mean, what should people expect to see from you? Any new music? Have you left the industry for good? Ever tempted back?
Let me tell you something about the music industry. The best way I can explain it is, if you've been in a relationship, a bad relationship with someone, and that person was verbally abusive or physically abusive, and they just didn't do you right, and
Mm,
then you get out of that relationship, if you go back into that relationship, shame on you.
yeah.
So even though I know so much more, Now, to me, like I said, no, I'm in a certain age range where I'm like, yeah, I'm not getting ready to do all that. Yeah, my knees don't even want to, no, like, no, we're not doing that. And then I just don't want to get back into that abusive relationship again. And that's how I feel about the music industry. So
Yeah.
it's done so many of us, it's done so many of us wrong. It's just, it's not a relationship that I want to get back into. If I were to do something music wise, because I'm still a writer, no matter what. And I did go into the studio not too long ago, and I can
Okay.
still write. I can still write. I get a good beat and I can flow, but you can't take that away from me. I'm still a creative, but when I was in the studio and I'm writing and I'm saying things, I was finding it hard to say things that I could say when I was 18, 19 years old and
Wow.
feel okay with it. And it
Okay.
wasn't the sexy stuff, because I can say the sexy stuff. I feel sexy, don't get it twisted. But when it comes to the whole, calling women out their name, saying this, bitch, that, this. And then also I did a lot of dogging men, and I can't do that now and be okay with it. Like, I can't. I don't feel okay putting men down. I don't feel okay putting other women down. And even though, it was done to me, but that's not who I am as a
Yeah.
person. So no, I definitely don't see that. But I could see myself, if I was to do something, maybe doing jingles, maybe writing stuff for people, ghost writing type of
Okay.
stuff
Okay.
for brands and things like that. But actually trying to come back out with another album, I'm a grandmother. Like, no, I'm good.
Well, I mean,
No.
no, it's understandable. And I guess, you're in a position where you've found, unlike most people, found what you love doing and are able to express yourself in that environment, um, which is always great. Um, at least before we wrap up, it'd be great just to see somebody get your perspective on the state of hip hop, especially with females, because you know, I think the song you laid down in Wild Thing, seems as if our female artists are retelling that visually as much as possible. But what are your thoughts about the female hip hop artists that are now out?
Uh, wow. Mm, I think there's a lot of shock value, you know? And
Yeah.
that, I mean, that might sound crazy coming from me, because obviously I was ahead of my time when I was saying the things that I was saying. But I think now it's a little bit different, because it not only comes with the lyrics, but it comes along with all of the visuals that you see constantly over and over on social media.
Mm,
So it's not like I said, I could do a song and people didn't even know what I looked like. And now it's, you do a song and people know what your whole asshole look like. They know what, it is like,
yeah.
it's just, it's so much. And it's the world that we live in. Sex sells.
Yeah.
And um, these you got these girls out here doing this stuff, and I'm just like, wow, it's a lot. I want them to get their bag. Of course, I want them to get their money, and I don't want anybody to get over on them. So it's like, do what you got to do, but be smart about it,
Yeah.
and then don't do anything that you're going to regret 20 years from now, you know, when you got to look back and say, like, okay, I did X, Y, and Z, but what did you get from it? Were you able
Yeah.
to just go buy a nice purse and some shoes, or did you set yourself up? Were you able to do something to build on and leave a legacy for your grandson and, stuff like that. Like, that's how I feel right now, especially when
Yeah.
I don't get my flowers. It makes me mad because, like I said, I'm a grandmother. And so I don't want to leave the kind of legacy that, I've had people dog me on social media about, actually here on YouTube as well, about what I was doing, who I was dating, and that I was living in a trailer, a trailer park. And I'm like, I don't live in a trailer park, but, and that I was laid up with, this white guy and,
Oh yeah, I
living in his
saw that.
trailer.
Yeah.
Yeah. So to me, it was just like, it was crazy. And I'm like, wait, what? Like, that's not even my life. Right. So where'd y'all get that from? So I did address it, but I addressed it for my grandson. I addressed it simply because I don't want people looking for me and then going, well, she didn't say anything, so it must be true. No, it's not true. That's not what happened. And anyway, so I dealt with that. But um, as far as like female rappers, like I said, get your bag, but don't get your bag and then go out and buy a bag. Like, that's not what it's about. Be smart with your money.
Yeah. Yeah, no, well said. And I guess it's um it's quite easy in the moment to assume that it doesn't get any better than this. And not even realize the discipline that's required. Who would make your top five female hip hop artists?
Ooh, Salt and Pepper
Okay.
for sure. Nicki Minaj. I
Wow.
love her, even though she didn't show me any love when she redid my song. I'm just gonna put it out there. She did a version of Doing It with Fabulous, and I think she did a version with Jadakiss. Um,
Okay.
and I love both of them. Like, Jadakiss is one of my top five male rappers, and so her and Jadakiss, and I didn't get any love from either one of them, but I still love Nicki. And I would say, did I say Remy Ma?
Have you said it?
Remy,
Okay, no. So you've got Salt and Pepper, Remy Ma, and you've got Nicki Minaj. So
Nicki
two more.
Minaj. Let's see, females. I would say, like, if it was back in the day, if we were taking it back, Yo-Yo. Um, Yo-Yo for sure. Uh, Black Pearl is still one of my favorite songs. And um, let's see, who else? Probably Cardi B. I
Okay,
like Cardi.
okay, okay. Well, I mean, it's one of those things where hip hop is now taken over, and then females there's a lot of females. Ice Spice just started newly, and it's all over the place. But any advice for up and coming artists based on your experience getting
Any
into the industry?
advice?
Yeah, what advice would you give up and coming artists who are considering a life in music based on the experience that you experienced?
Get another job.
No, that's a good advice because you don't want to put all your eggs in one
It's
basket.
just, it's not, I don't know. I just, honestly, I don't want to sound bitter, but it's definitely not all it's wrapped up to be. And you know that from your podcast. You've had so many artists say the same exact thing that I'm saying. We all got jerked around. And that's why I said, at some point we should all get together and file a class action lawsuit, because so many of us got dogged, and I just, I don't think it's cracked up to be. So,
Yeah.
a lot of people out there hungry, a lot of people out there bankrupt, a lot of people out there broke or sick or, whatever. And even though I didn't get what I would consider my due, um, I dodged a bullet. I live a completely different life. And I feel like I dodged the bullet. So,
Yeah.
in a way, they did me a favor. Of course, would I like to be getting the same kind of royalty checks that LL
Yeah.
gets? Yeah. But when it comes to all that other stuff, I definitely dodged the bullet.
Yeah, no, definitely. Um, I always end my interviews by asking my guest that if you're stuck in an elevator and you had the chance to watch a movie, what would be your all-time favorite movie that you'd want to watch to pass away time?
Uh, Probably my top, gosh, I have so many movies. Okay, I would say Avengers
Oh, the
Endgame.
first one. Oh, the last one.
Yeah, I am a huge Marvel nerd. As you can see from the hair,
Oh,
this
Storm.
is my storm.
I read the comics as a
So
kid.
yeah, I've been like for years, Storm. It started out with Rogue from X-Men, and then
Yeah.
I morphed into Storm. So
Okay.
yeah, I'm a huge Marvel nerd. So I would say probably Avengers Endgame. Yeah. But then like Grease is one of my favorite movies, and Face Off with John Travolta. Remember that movie?
Yeah. When he was playing with Nicolas Cage as well.
Nicolas Cage. Yeah.
Mm.
That's one of my favorite movies too. So
Okay. Okay. And then what makes your all-time favorite song by any artist?
oh, my favorite song. Good Lord. I would say the one song that stops me dead in my tracks
Mm.
is Adore by Prince.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I listen to so much music, and I grew up listening to so many different artists. But
Yeah. But that's the thing. It's quite. I mean, some of us, like me, Michael Jackson, deleted my life, can just roll it off. I have a top
right,
10 song list, but if I've always said my favorite, I once I've told the song that you're my favorite, it's locked in for life. So
yeah,
it does become hard. Um, I think one of the things that listening to your journey, and I say listening to your journey, and unfortunately you were one of those who were taken advantage of. Um, but despite that, I think what's powerful and is where you are now and how you saw past that, not just doing your interior design, but also being able to express yourself on YouTube, photography, um, and still leave yourself open to make a comeback because you've been doing it since you were a kid, so it doesn't leave you and stuff like that. Um, but even for the fun of it, do you think you might do just start to, you don't have to deal with the industry. It's up to, on your terms and stuff, just putting out stuff.
um, I don't know. I mean, if people wanted to hear me talk about the planet and being vegan and wanting to save the animals, then maybe, yeah. But I don't think anybody want to hear rap songs about that. So, but when it comes down to it, like that is really what is important to me, those kind of things. I can really get on this whole, what do you call it? I forgot how to say it, but I can get on this thing where I get really, really deep, and it'll go into like political stuff and the
Mm,
country and the government. And so yeah, I try to like not go there. But if I was going to be writing about things that are really, really passionate to me,
yeah. Mm,
then yeah, it would those lyrics would come to me easy, no problem. Me
okay.
trying to talk about all this other stuff that everybody's talking about, no, I don't care. I'm not a name. I'm not a name brand whore. I don't care. I'll buy my sneakers from Amazon. I live in a tiny house. I'm not all about the,
Glitz and glamour.
flamboyant. Yeah, I like these people are not doing anything in my community. Why do I care? I'm not going to spend $1,500 on a pair of jeans and they're not doing anything in my community. They don't even know I exist, but I'm supposed to spend my whole entire check. Like, no, that's not getting ready to happen. So to me, that would be one of the things that I would tell people in this industry is be true to yourself and don't try to keep up with everybody else, what they're doing. A lot of people like to compare their day one to somebody else's day, 200 or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
you can't do that. You got to do what works for you and live within your means. Don't
Yeah.
get caught up in social media and what Instagram or TikTok. I hate TikTok. What I hate TikTok with a passion. But don't get in, in your head that you have to make X amount of money so you can drive this kind of car. Drive what you can afford. Buy what you can afford. If that's an A to B, get yourself a little A to B until you're able to do something else. But that would be my advice, is just be true to yourself and live within your means. Don't feel like you gotta keep up with everybody. You got all these people out here going on like a fake jet to take pictures, and I'm looking at the picture like this is so photoshopped, and getting empty bags from, Hermes and stuff like that. It's like you can't even buy Hermes, like you got to be on their wait list. Like it's just funny to me how people like to front. And so
Yeah.
I would rather somebody just be themselves and, keep it real with me. And that's how I am. And that's why I think my audience loves me, is because I keep it real with them. It's like, I'm not trying to be somebody I'm not. I'm not trying to put up this whole persona as, yeah, this is me and I did this and da 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 da. And no. No.
Yeah, I mean yes, and you always have to be fortunate about um how you've been shaped with all these ups and downs to get to where you are. Where it's like if you want to meet me, you meet the real me. And I guess for a lot of people, it's hard to break free from having to keep up that perception, especially as outside of hip hop, black music doesn't get the recognition and the play it does, as it did back in the day.
Right.
But yes, I mean, for me, it's been great at least to be able to track down your journey and stuff. But also just the thing you said about, and it also takes me back to how they used to be back in the '60s, the white rock groups saying, yeah, we were in the studio, and then Rod Stewart showed up and we just sang the chorus, and it was nothing. They don't think about, okay, where are you going to sign, how much money, because it can't stifle creativity and it can't
Right,
take
right,
away
right.
from the moment. But
Right.
and yeah. So, but it's been great hearing that side. Um, any last thoughts as well, just as we wrap up?
Um, no, I think I said it. Just, I just want people to have like lower their expectations when it comes to the music industry. Um, that would be my thing. And then just in general, just people in general, if there's any young girls watching this and they're trying to keep up with, say, the Megan Thee Stallions, the Ice Spices, and you know, um, if they're trying to keep up with that, it's like, girl, stop. Like, just take it down a notch. There's way more to life
Yeah.
than that. And no disrespect to any of those girls who are doing their thing or whatever, but God, it's probably like a million to one Ice Spice, but you got all these other girls out here who want to aspire to be like her, but it's like she's like one in a million, and it's just not going to happen that way. I don't think. I'm not saying
Yeah.
don't follow your dreams, but while you following your dreams, get your education, and get what you can get out of it,
Yeah.
and then try to be building on that as well. So you have something else to fall back on, and then nobody can pull the wool over your eyes with, okay, I'm gonna give you X amount of dollars. And you're like, yeah, that's good, but I'm already making X amount of dollars on my own. So I'm gonna need you to come with something better than that. Just I just worry about that, the generation and how these kids are growing up. Not even just kids. You got 30-year-olds, 40-year-olds trying to keep up with all this stuff. And it's just like, y'all need to bring it down a notch.
It's true. It's true.
Stop living your life on social media. Just
Yeah.
really live your life.
Yeah, that's dealing with self-esteem and trying to be who you're not is prevalent among our the
I'm
generation.
moving to Mexico actually.
Oh, how come?
A better quality of life,
I mean,
cost of living,
okay.
adventure. Um,
These are the
I've
Mexicans that are
always
trying to come to America in their droves, and you're saying, "Yep, no."
No, because you know what? There's different parts of Mexico. Like
Okay.
Mexico is a whole big country. As I have to tell
Yeah.
people that like Mexico is a country, not a state. And there are different areas of Mexico, and obviously some of them are not thriving and doing as well as other areas. But I'm going to a part of Mexico. It's called the Yucatan, on the Yucatan Peninsula in Merida,
Hmm.
and I'm moving there. And Merida is a pretty big city, about 1.1 million people, so it's a pretty big city, and it's a thriving place,
Okay.
and not some place where you got people try to like cross over a border or whatever like that. So yeah, there's certain areas in Mexico where it's really bad, and unfortunately, they feel like they would rather live here um, under these circumstances than there, because obviously it's worse over there. But yeah,
Hmm.
it's definitely a better quality of life, and the cost of living is better. Things have gotten ridiculous in this country.
Around the world.
I know it's gotten ridiculous in your country as
Yeah,
well.
around the world.
Yeah. So yeah, it's just, I mean, even Mexico now, certain areas is just, it's going up and up and up. The peso is very strong, where it used to be like 25 pesos to a dollar. Now it's like 17 today. I think when I checked the exchange rate. But so the peso is gaining, it's getting really strong, but it's still a better quality of life. So what $1,200 to get you in Las Vegas um, will get you something completely different where I'm going, per month. So you're looking at $1,200. You're looking at maybe a 1-bedroom apartment in a decent neighborhood. $1,200 in Merida is going to get you like a 3-4 bedroom house in a
Ah,
gated community with
right.
all the amenities. So it's different. It's a different quality of life. And I'd rather spend my $1,200 and get this plus a slower pace than spend my $1,200 and get, you know, gunshots going off outside. So yeah.
Oh goodness. Well, LeShaun, it's been a pleasure and really fascinating story
Thank
that you
you.
that you have, and it is something that I don't can't wait to let the audience get to see. Um, and hopefully, the little girl who was out in Brooklyn writing poems in her scrapbook. Hopefully, she writes about the environment, about vegan, about lifestyle change, because she still has flow, she still has the experience around her, and now way social media has made it easy for everyone to become a creator and get it out there. So we can only hope and cross our fingers.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. And shout out to Love Too. who was on my channel, who actually was the one who facilitated this meeting between us.
Yes, yes, and that's the important thing, that you do have real real loyal supporters or members of your community who are always looking out, and always looking out for the positive. I'm just trying to like once I got the email as well. Yeah, it's and that's always a powerful thing when I do get people who say, hey, how about, I'm in touch with this person who I really follow, and it'll be great to be celebrated on your platform as well. And so it is love too. So I just really want to thank Love too as well for supporting getting LeShaun on, because it's been really fascinating hearing your story. And you're more than just doing it with LL Cool J. You've it is how you've transformed things right now. And as I said, it's an amazing channel, because you're showing properties, just doing all sorts of things, and then having a special moment to have a rant with your community. So that's you can't beat that as well.
Well, thank you. I
Yes.
appreciate it. And yeah, I just hope people are interested enough to see, like, well, who is that? What's going on? Because I just assume most people will be like, who is she?
Yeah. No, as I say, I listened to Radio North and I thought, wow, this is some real. It's a city, yeah. Without a strong label pushing you, it can be tough, because you had some really good tracks, but you needed the label to really pour the money and say,
Yeah. I don't
yeah,
think they saw the vision then. I
yeah,
don't think they saw it. Yeah. So
yeah. Anyway.
whatever. Okay.
Well,
Thank you,
guys,
Namdi. I appreciate it.
definitely, and in when this goes out, the your social media links will be in the description, so people, if
Perfect.
so that they can be able to follow as well.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Well, enjoy
All
life in
right. Well, you get
California.
some sleep.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm in Vegas. I'm in Las Vegas.
Oh, Vegas. Okay. Yeah, it seems as if it's quite different from just casinos. A lot more people. When I remember living in LA, thinking only people in Vegas are people that work in the hotels, but now it seems if it's taken on a life of its own, where a lot more people
Oh
are
my
moving
God.
in.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yes.
for sure.
Okay. Well, hopefully we'll see
Okay.
you Hip Hop 50 in some forecast
I
capacity.
want to thank you for giving me my flowers. I appreciate it.
Hip Hop
But yeah,
50. Hip Hop 50. I mean, you wrote Wild Thing at that young age, and it got, but also just the fact that female artists, hip hop artists were not getting the props, only a few, it just shows that you are passionate about your art and your creativity.
well,
But
thank
as
you.
I said, it is here near here there. It is where you are now, so we're grateful for that.
I begin to